guys. So I'm a little messy and on the run, but I have heard quite a bit about proteins and which types of proteins people are sensitive to, and I've also been learning quite a bit myself with autoimmune issues and blood sugar, especially trying to gain muscle and bulk up a little bit. It's, I'm eating more protein, and you got to be smart about what you're choosing. So plant protein powders, they're not complete sources of protein, so you want to try to pair them with other proteins, or at least try to use some collagen. Although I used to do hemp protein shakes almost every morning, and for the last month or so I just quit those, and I started eating eggs and beef bacon or pork, and just getting those animal proteins. My brain, I've noticed, and my mood is so much better. It's just getting those complete proteins and a full amino acid profile. It's really important, and I would encourage others to do that. Also, just the absorption rate is a lot better, so it's less insulinogenic. You also want to take that into consideration with proteins, just how insulinogenic they are. Basically, the way that I think about this is the ratio of protein to fat. So pork obviously is going to absorb a lot slower, and it's going to have less of an impact on glycemic impact. Leaner proteins are going to have more of a glycemic impact, like egg whites. Whole eggs, I think, are a really, really good balance. But it's just something to think about and be aware of, not be paranoid of course, because we should all be grateful for whatever we eat, and also the fact that the way that you manage your life and stress really affects the glycemic impact of anything that we eat. But it's wise to be aware that nutrient density of what you're eating makes a big difference. If you want to feel better, if you want to keep getting better, if you want to build muscle, have more energy that's sustaining and less roller coasters with glucose, I highly suggest eating whole animal proteins. If you have a hard time eating that much meat, you can break it up with eggs. So I'll usually have like an ounce or two of meat with an egg at lunch. I'll have an egg and 2 ounces of pork at breakfast. And then, of course, there are autoimmune issues with the types of fats in your meats. I find it a lot easier to have monounsaturated fats versus a whole lot of saturated fats. So I get my saturated fats from the meats that I eat, and then I will usually add oil, which will be coconut oil or sometimes olive oil, usually coconut oil. Sometimes I'll use rendered duck fat, so there is a lot to think of with that, but gluconeogenesis is a very interesting process, and I encourage anyone to literally just Google it up and read about what is happening, and you need it to happen for ketosis to happen. So it's not a bad thing. We all need it. We also all need insulin. It's just the roller coasters that we don't want. We want to be in a steady state, right? So choose your proteins mindfully, and feel free to reach out or leave comments if you have any. I would love to help anyone who's feels like they have a hard time digesting certain proteins. Just work your way up, and if you need to start with just powder proteins, that's what I did for a long time. But then, you know, try to keep challenging yourself. Try to keep eating whole foods, more and more nutrient dense when you can. Thanks. Bye.